You're listening to 105.3, The Gerblin, Dominaria's #1 music source for generic goblin noise.
Hey gang, and welcome back. Just so you know, you can use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, one word, at FlipsideGaming.com to get 10% off orders $10 or more. You can also use the promo code at Original Magic Art on everything except for paintings. And finally, you can use the code at mtg.multizone.ca to get 10% off of your orders of singles. Using the code will help you save some money and help out the channel at the same time. I know I said last week that I only had 2 new overlays for you guys to check out, but Adam outdid himself and created this wonderful third one I wanted to share with you, so please be sure to let me know which you prefer of the 3. Today's game is another premium one from Platinum Star Games. It's a bit of an old one, but I enjoyed it. I have borrowed Joe's Lathliss deck, keeping Advance's Blasting Cannons, 4 Mountains, Opal Palace, and Territorial Hellkite. Dom is playing his Arcades deck, keeping Settle the Wreckage, Hover Barrier, Tower Defense, Wakestone Gargoyle, Azorius Chancery, Selesnya Sanctuary, and Sunpetal Grove. Steve is playing his Dragon, keeping Watery Grave, Killenmouth Dragon, Bladewing the Risen, Cultivate, Canyon Slough, Arcane Sanctum, and Overgrown Tomb. Last but not least, we have John playing Atraxa, keeping a Sakura Tribe Elder, Llanowar Wastes, Darksteel Forge, Buried Ruin, Godless Shrine, Copy Artifact, and Mana Crypt. I win the die roll and start us off. I play a Mountain, passing. Dom plays a tap Sunpetal Grove. Steve plays an Arcane Sanctum and passes. John plays a Mana Crypt and then a Llanowar Wastes. He taps it, taking 1 from the waste to help pay for a Sakura Tribe Elder. I play a Mountain and pass. Dom plays a Bounce Land, returning his Sunpetal Grove and having to discard at the end of turn. Steve plays a tap Canyon Slough and passes. John flips his coin but doesn't take any damage. He continues with the Pain Train, playing a Yavimaya Coast, and hits me for 1. I play a Mountain and pass. Dom replays his Sunpetal Grove tapped and passes to Steve. Steve plays an Overgrown Tomb, taking 2 to have it come in untapped. He then pays 3 for Cultivate before passing turn. John loses his flip and takes the 3. He plays a tapped Hollowed Fountain and passes. I play a Mountain for my turn and cast Vance's Blasting Cannons before passing to Dom. Dom pays 3 for an Axebane Guardian in his main phase, and drops his second Bounce Land, once more returning the Sunpetal Grove to his hand. Steve plays a Watery Grave, and takes after John by hurting himself to have it come in untapped. He then casts a Thunderbreak Regent before passing to John. John correctly calls his flip, and draws for turn. He plays a Godless Shrine, still finding a way to hurt himself on his turn. He then takes another 2 from the Painlands to help cast Atraxa, and he passes to me. I exile a Mana Charged Dragon to the Blasting Cannons on my upkeep, and play a Mountain. I pay 5 for a Territorial Hellkite, and I assign 2 numbers to each of my opponents and roll a d6. The die picks Dom, and I swing it at him, dealing 6 in the air. I then pass my turn, and the Mana Charged Dragon is gone forever. Dom plays the Sunpetal Grove for the 3rd time this game, and taps his Bounce Lands to cast Arcades. He then passes to Steve. Steve plays a Forest and counts up his lands, twice. He taps it all for Killenmouth Dragon, and reveals 2 dragons as the dragon enters. This gives the dragon 6+1/+1 counters, and Steve then passes. John flips his coin and nails it again. He plays a Yavimaya Hollow as his land for turn. He then takes 1 from tapping the Waste to cast a Sylvan Library because he's worried he doesn't have enough ways to cause pain to himself. I exile a Mountain to the Cannons and play 1 for turn. This time, I roll to see only if it'll hit John or Steve, and this time the dragon heads at John, who takes the hit for 6, and I pass to Dom. Dom plays a Jaddy Offshoot in his main phase, drawing a card as it enters from Arcades' trigger. He then taps some more mana, floating 1 of it, to cast a Hover Barrier, and draws again. He then taps the Axebane to help cast Rhystic Study, and for once I'm glad I don't have to keep track of the triggers for it. Steve untaps and plays a Smoldering Marsh, which comes in untapped because of his basics. 5 mana gets him a Sarkhan Unbroken, and he makes a green mana and draws a card. Steve then passes, and at the end of turn, John sacrifices his Sakura Tribe Elder to find a basic. John hits his coin flip again and avoids damage and draws for turn, but he uses his library trigger to draw 2 more. He doesn't keep any extra though. John then plays a Buried Ruin for turn and takes 1 from the Yavimaya Coast to help cast Fabricate. He goes and finds Lux Cannon, and Dom realizes he missed the triggers. Welcome to my world, Dom. John, because he's a nice guy, lets Dom draw the card. John then drops a Lux Cannon at the end of turn. Responding to his own Atraxa trigger at the end of turn, John taps the cannon to put a counter on it, then proliferates and puts a second one on it. I exile a Stranglehold to the cannons on my upkeep and draw. I play a mountain and cast Lathliss in my main phase. I roll to see where I'll go this time with a Territorial Hellkite, and once more Dom gets picked. Dom thinks about blocking, but decides the Hover Barrier being able to attack on his turn is worth more than 6 life, and takes the hit. Dom plays a Forest, gaining 1 from the Offshoot's landfall trigger. He then plays a Wall of Denial, drawing as it enters. He then taps the Axebane again for more mana, and drops Wilderness Reclamation. He finishes his turn off using the floating mana to cast Krosan Grip on John's Lux Cannon, which is probably the right move. Dom then passes and untaps his lands. Steve shows off his counting skills again, rubbing them in my face, and drops a Nesting Dragon. He plays a land and makes an egg. Steve then upticks Sarkhan, making a mana and drawing a card, and he passes to John. John flips for his Crypt, losing and taking 3. He activates his library as he draws, but keeps no extras. We then see an Inventor's Fair as his land for turn, and John plays a card he wishes he played before the cannon, Darksteel Forge, and Dom weighs in on this. John then passes. I exile Swiftfoot Boots to the cannons, and play an Opal Palace as my land for turn. I then cast Mana Echoes, followed by Swiftfoot Boots. I put the boots onto my commander, and I head to combat. We roll again to see where the Territorial Dragon will go, and it seems to not want to attack the other fellow dragon player, as I roll to hit John. Dom realizes his study triggers were missed, and I pay for 1 of the spells, letting him draw for the second. Dom plays a Command Tower as his land for turn, gaining 1 from the Offshoot, and casts a Geist of the Archives in his main phase, drawing as it enters. We then see a Wakestone Gargoyle coming in as well, drawing Dom another card. This time, Dom shows off his counting skills as he counts up his defenders and taps the Axebane for 6 mana. This lets him play Tetsuko, and then slaughter the Strong. This wipes away a lot of dragons and leaves the table pretty open, so Steve taps his Killing-Mouth Dragon to deal 6 damage to Arcades and hopefully stop us from being overrun by defenders for at least 1 turn. With his combat step kind of neutralized, Dom then moves to his end step, untapping his lands. Steve draws and casts the super relevant late game Soul Ring. He doesn't pay the 1, and Dom draws. He then upticks Sarkhan, drawing a card and making a mana. We then see a Dragon Arch, and he wins the flavor win of the game. He activates the Arch and is able to bring up Bladewing, who upon entering, lets Steve bring back his Nesting Dragon, and with nothing else, he passes. John loses another 3 to his Crypt and uses his library. He doesn't take any extra cards though, and he activates Buried Ruin to return the Lux Cannon to his hand, before he casts it again. John then uses Copy Artifact to have it come into the second copy of Lux Cannon and pays to deny Dom the draw. John then moves to his end step, and responding once more to the Atraxa trigger, puts a counter onto his Lux Cannon, and then proliferates another counter onto each. I exile Scourge of the Throne to the cannons and draw for turn. I cast the Scourge in my main phase, but it never gets to see the light of day as Dom uses Plasm Capture to counter it. With the majority of my mana having been tied up in casting that dragon, I just pass to Dom. Dom scries 1 on his upkeep from the Geist and bottoms it. He then draws for turn and plays a land, gaining 1 life, while Steve shows off his Cardboard Kung Fu. He casts Arcades and then Lightning Greaves, putting the Greaves onto his commander. He asks for life totals and swings 2 defenders at John. John offers up Atraxa, but with Tetsuko out, he actually can't block and has to take the hit, sadly getting taken out. Dom then untaps his lands at the end of turn, having forgotten about his Plasm Capture mana. Steve plays his copy of Command Tower and gets another egg. He upticks Sarkin again, making a mana and drawing a card. He then taps out all of his mana to bring out the Dragon, but he can't pay the 1, so Dom gets a draw from the study. Steve decides to keep his stuff back and passes to me. I exile a mountain and draw one, playing it for turn. I cast my own copy of Killing Dragon, revealing 3 dragons, which I discard like an idiot, and give the dragon 9+1/+1 counters. I then put the boots to it and pass. Dom scries and keeps the card there, drawing the card and playing an exploration. He drops 2 lands for turn and gains 2 life. We then see an overgrown battlement hitting the field, and Dom draws again. He then casts Swiftfoot Boots and puts them onto Tetsuko Mizawa, and he heads to combat. He swings the offshoot, Hover Barrier, and Wall of Denial, and Geist at Steve for 21. Steve declares no blocks, and Dom puts to stack his tower defense. If this resolves, it's enough to take Steve out, and there is no chance that I can deal with Dom on my own. I make a deal with Steve to deal with Dom first if I save him, and upon his agreement, I tap my Killing Mouth to deal 9 damage to the Hover Barrier before the pump spell can resolve. This means Steve only takes 30 and lives through the combat step, and with nothing else, Dom passes. Steve draws for turn and casts Rhythm of the Night, Wild, and Dom counters it with a Pact of Negation, but Steve doesn't mind. He shows us why as he downticks Sarkin to use his ultimate, and Dom and I realize we should have learned how to read. He gets to put any number of dragons from his deck onto the field, which considering he's a dragon deck, can't be all that many, right? He puts Atraxa, Dragonlord Dromoka, his own Lathliss, Hellkite Charger, Broodmate Dragon, Deathbringer Regent, and at this point he just starts pumping out whatever he can find. He puts everything he can out, and Lathliss sees them all coming in, making him a ton of dragon tokens. Some of them have haste, some of them don't, and the few creatures that he can swing, he swings at me. He also pays the 7 to gain another combat step from the Hellkite Charger. This gives him even more tokens from the Udvara Hellkite, and he gets a bunch of Dragon triggers, and Dom and I both agree the game is over once Steve puts out his Scourge of Valkis to the first Dragon trigger. He's layered it so he puts it out before the Udvara Hellkite triggers happen, which is more than enough to kill Dom and I both when they resolve. Game review time. So I think the real winner for today was our inability to read. Yes, had we been able to pay attention, we would have known that Sarkin was probably going to ultimate. Had there been a bit more communication between Dom and myself, I think I probably would have let Dom kill him and then hope for something else. But as you saw, I kind of discarded my hand to the Killing Dragon, which was a little bit silly of me. It was nice to see the Dragon going off, and the Sarkin ultimate was super flavorful considering it was a dragon-based deck. Unfortunately for John, he seemed to do a really good job of hurting himself and not such a great job of making Lux Cannon counters. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/MTGMudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/MTGMudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.